The alpha publicly rejected his fated mate. Then his greatest rival claimed her before the entire pack. What happens when a fated bond is rejected before everyone? And why would the alpha's greatest rival claim the woman he turned away? Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. If you enjoy emotional fantasy romance, unforgettable choices and stories shaped by destiny, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Thank you for spending your time with us and for continuing to support this channel. Your presence truly means more than you know. Before we begin, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from and what time is it there right now? Now let's begin the story. Say it again, Emily Carter whispered, though the words had already silenced every wolf beneath the blood moon. Mason Reed stood beneath Silver Creek's carved stone arch, his ceremonial cloak fastened at one shoulder, while nearly 300 witnesses watched from the torchlit square. The bond beneath Emily's ribs burned like a silver cord drawn too tight. Only moments earlier, she had believed Mason was finally going to take her hand and acknowledge what fate had chosen 2 years ago. Instead, he looked at her with the distant calm of a ruler announcing a law. I, Mason Reed, Alpha of Silver Creek, reject Emily Carter as my fated mate. The second declaration struck deeper. Her wolf retreated into stunned silence. The scents of pine smoke, candle wax and winter roses faded until Emily could hear only her own uneven breathing. Her knees weakened, but she forced herself to remain standing. She would not collapse before Vanessa Hale, who waited beside the ceremonial platform in a white gown. She would not fall before elders who had accepted Emily's healing for years, while refusing to recognize her worth. She would not give the gathering another reason to call her weak. Mason released her wrist. The warmth of his touch disappeared, leaving the bond trembling beneath her skin. This is necessary, he said quietly. Emily searched his blue eyes for the man who had once promised that patience would lead them here together. She found ambition instead. Necessary for whom? She asked. A murmur passed through the crowd. Mason's jaw tightened. Silver Creek needs a Luna with rank, influence, and the strength to stand beside an alpha. He did not look toward Vanessa, but everyone understood. A laugh rose near the council seats. Vanessa stepped closer, her expression arranged into gentle concern. You should be grateful, Emily. Mason has released you from a place you were never prepared to hold. The humiliation that had burned through Emily suddenly became cold and clear. For years she had mistaken secrecy for protection. She had believed Mason hid their bond because the pack might reject her. Now she understood that he had feared something else. He had feared they might see the quiet power he had worked so hard to conceal. Emily removed the silver bracelet Mason had given her when their bond first awakened. She placed it on the stone between them. I accept your rejection, she said, her voice carrying across the square. The whispers stopped. But I do not accept your judgment of my worth. Surprise broke through Mason's composure. Before he could answer, a deep voice came from the Blackridge delegation. Then you have rejected what you were never worthy to keep. Every head turned. Caleb Blackwood rose from his seat, tall beneath a dark cloak, his silver-gray eyes fixed on Emily rather than Mason. Under Blood Moon law, a rejected and unclaimed wolf could request sanctuary from another pack before the ceremonial circle closed. The law was ancient, rarely invoked, and dangerous when rival alphas were involved. Caleb stepped across the boundary without a guard and without a weapon. Mason's voice sharpened. You have no place in this right. Caleb stopped at the edge of the sacred circle. That is not your decision anymore. He looked at Emily. Tell me to leave and I will. No alpha had ever placed that choice in her hands. Emily drew one careful breath. Stay. Caleb entered the circle. 3 days earlier, Emily had been kneeling beside a feverish child when she first understood how much of herself Silver Creek was willing to use without ever truly seeing her. The infirmary smelled of crushed mint, clean linen, and rain drifting through open windows. 8-year-old Nora Blake trembled beneath a wool blanket, her young wolf trapped between sleep and panic. 2 healers had already tried bitter tonics. Nothing had calmed her. Emily placed one hand over the girl's heart and began to hum. The melody was low and steady, almost too soft to hear, but Nora's breathing slowly matched it. The tension left her fingers. Her wolf settled. Within minutes, the child opened her eyes. I knew you would come, Nora murmured. Emily brushed damp hair from her forehead. You were the brave one. Outside the room, Nora's mother wept with relief. Yet when head healer Collins entered, he praised the tonic rather than Emily. She said nothing. She was accustomed to disappearing behind the miracles she created. By sunset, she had treated 2 hunters, soothed an elderly wolf through a difficult moon fever, and prepared enough medicine for half the village. No one called her powerful. They called her useful. Mason arrived after dark. His alpha presence filled the narrow room before he spoke, carrying the scent of cedar and cold air. The hidden bond warmed beneath Emily's ribs. For one hopeful moment she thought he had come because he missed her. Then he closed the door and glanced toward the windows. You used your gift again. Nora could not breathe. The healers had it under control. They did not. Mason's expression tightened. You cannot keep drawing attention to yourself. Emily set down the bundle of dried lavender in her hands. You said we would tell the pack after the blood moon gathering. Mason looked away. This is not the right time. It was always the wrong time. When their bond awakened, he had asked for patience. When his father died and Mason became alpha, he had asked for silence. When Vanessa began sitting beside him at council meetings, he had called it politics. Emily had accepted every explanation because she believed fate would eventually make courage easier for him. Are you ashamed of me? She asked. Mason crossed the room and took her hands. His touch awakened the silver cord between them, warm and familiar. I am protecting you. From whom? His silence answered before his voice did. From what this pack expects. Emily wanted to believe him. She wanted caution to sound like love instead of fear. Before she could respond, urgent footsteps approached. The door opened, and 2 border guards carried in an unconscious stranger wearing a torn gray tunic marked with the Blackridge crest. One guard lowered his voice. We found him near the Eastern Trail. If the council learns we brought an enemy commander inside the village, the peace gathering could collapse. Mason's face hardened. Take him beyond our border. Emily looked at the stranger's pale face and shallow breathing. His wolf was still fighting beneath the silence. She stepped toward him. No, Mason stared at her. Emily. She reached for her healer's shears. I will not decide who deserves mercy by the crest on his clothing. The stranger's eyelids moved. A single word escaped him. Caleb. The name changed the room. Everyone in Silver Creek knew Caleb Blackwood had only one younger brother, Daniel, the commander who rarely left his side. Mason ordered the guards away, then caught Emily by the elbow. You cannot save him. He is already here. That does not make him our responsibility. Emily pulled free. He is breathing. That makes him mine. Mason stared at her as though he no longer recognized the woman who had yielded to every request he made. Daniel stirred, his wolf pressing restlessly beneath his skin. Emily rested her palm over his heart. The current that answered her touch felt wrong. His wolf was not merely frightened. Something foreign clouded its instincts, forcing panic through every breath. She opened the torn sleeve with her shears and found a shallow wound near his shoulder. The injury itself was minor, yet a blue-gray shadow marked the skin around it. A narrow piece of dark wood remained caught in the fabric. Emily lifted it with linen and brought it near the lamp. A bitter scent rose from the fragment. Moonbane mixed with silver root. Mason moved closer. Throw it away. Emily turned the wood beneath the light. A thin gold line ran along its edge. Our apothecary marks ceremonial shafts this way. Mason's expression closed. Silver root grows elsewhere. Not this strain. She pointed toward the gold mark. This came from Silver Creek. The infirmary fell silent except for Daniel's uneven breathing. No one can know, Mason said. Emily could hardly believe him. Someone from this territory attacked Caleb's brother. We do not know that. Then we investigate before Blackridge arrives. Mason stepped between her and the table. If Caleb believes I ordered this, he may cross the border before the gathering. Kill Daniel if you can. Destroy the fragment afterward. That is an alpha's command. The bond tightened, expecting obedience. Emily felt the old instinct to make herself smaller so Mason's burdens would feel lighter. Then Daniel whispered, Eastern route. Mason leaned closer. Who knew your route? Daniel's eyes remained closed. Someone knew. His wolf surged again. Emily pressed both hands over his chest and began to hum. At first his breathing fought the rhythm. Then the tension slowly eased. The shadow around the wound began to fade as Emily drew the panic away from his wolf and carried it through herself. Cold spread along her arms. Her vision blurred, but she continued until Daniel settled into natural sleep. When she raised her head, Mason was staring at her with fear rather than wonder. "You will never do that before the pack," he said. "Do you understand?" Emily wrapped the arrow fragment in linen and slipped it into her apron pocket. "I understand more than I did yesterday." Mason left without another word. Emily closed the curtains one by one. At the final window, she noticed a tall figure standing beneath the cedar trees. Moonlight caught silver-gray eyes beneath a black hood. Caleb Blackwood had followed the faint pull of the paired silver seals carried by every member of his family. Daniel's seal had led him from the eastern trail to the infirmary. He had found his brother. He had also seen Emily save him. As Caleb stepped closer to the rain-dark glass, Daniel stirred behind her and whispered 2 words. "Silver Rose." "Do not call for the guards," Caleb Blackwood said from beyond the rain-dark window. Emily's hand froze against the curtain. Beneath the cedar trees, his black cloak moved in the wind, and the paired silver seal in his palm glimmered faintly with the same light as the seal hidden beneath Daniel's tunic. The magic had led him across the eastern trail, through the sleeping village, and directly to his brother. Every warning Emily had heard about Caleb rushed through her mind. Ruthless, unforgiving, a rival alpha who never overlooked a threat. Yet the man standing outside the infirmary did not look hungry for conflict. He looked like a brother trying not to show fear. Emily opened the side door and stepped beneath the narrow awning. "How long were you watching?" she asked. "Long enough to see you save Daniel. Long enough to hear Mason order you to hide the evidence." Caleb's silver-gray eyes lowered to the linen-wrapped fragment in her pocket. "May I see it?" The question surprised her. He could have demanded it. Instead he waited. Emily removed the fragment but kept it in her hand. "If I give this to you now, what will you do?" "Find whoever attacked my brother." "And if the trail appears to lead to Silver Creek?" His jaw tightened. "Then Mason will answer for it." "That is not proof. That is anger looking for a target." Rain struck the roof in a steady rhythm. Caleb stepped closer, stopping several feet away. His presence filled the narrow space, but he made no attempt to cross the distance between them. "You expect me to remain calm while the person responsible walks freely? I expect you to decide whether you want the truth or a reason to begin a war." Emily waited for his temper. Instead, Caleb studied her as though no one had ever spoken to him that plainly. "They told me Silver Creek's healer was timid," he said. "They were wrong." Emily looked through the window at Daniel's sleeping form. "They are wrong about many things." Caleb followed her gaze, and the hardness in his face eased. "Will he recover? The poison is fading. He needs another treatment before sunrise, but his wolf is stable." "Then I owe you more than I can repay." "You owe me nothing." He needed help. The answer unsettled him more than gratitude would have. Caleb opened his hand and showed her the paired family seal. A faint trace of gold powder clung inside one carved groove. Emily recognized the color immediately. Silver Creek's apothecary used the same powder to mark ceremonial shafts. "Someone touched Daniel's seal after he fell," Caleb said. The tracking bond weakened then returned. "Whoever moved him knew enough about Blackridge magic to delay me." Emily examined the seal without taking it. "They wanted you to arrive late. Or angry." Daniel shifted inside the infirmary and whispered again. "Silver Rose." Emily's attention sharpened. The Hale family crest was a silver rose. Vanessa wore it on every formal cloak. Caleb read the recognition in her face. "You know what it means. It is a clue, not a verdict. You are protecting her?" "I am protecting the truth from becoming whatever either of us wants it to be." For several heartbeats neither spoke. Then Caleb looked toward the sleeping village, where warm lamps glowed behind rain-streaked windows. "The gathering begins in 3 nights. Until then, I will keep Blackridge outside your borders." Emily released a breath she had not realized she was holding. "And you will not challenge Mason without proof." His expression turned grim. You ask a great deal. I am asking you to protect the wolves who will suffer first. Caleb nodded once. No challenge. No accusation. Not until we know who benefits from turning both packs against each other. He stepped back into the rain, then paused. Emily Carter. Hearing her full name in his voice sent a quiet shiver through her. You are the first person in Silver Creek who has spoken to me as though I were a man instead of a monster. Emily held his gaze. Then perhaps they are wrong about you too. Caleb disappeared between the cedars. By morning, Daniel was awake long enough to describe fragments of the attack. Pale cloak. A silver rose clasp. A voice telling him the eastern path was safe. He never saw a face clearly, and Emily refused to let fear turn uncertainty into accusation. She hid the arrow fragment in Caleb's gold-stained seal beneath the false bottom of her leather healer's satchel, then walked to the western gardens. The ceremonial storehouse stood behind the apothecary, its iron lock protected by 3 keys. One belonged to Mason. One belonged to head healer Collins. The third belonged to the Hale family, who supervised the preparation of ritual supplies. Inside, the air smelled of cedar oil and dried herbs. Emily found the inventory ledger beside a row of empty wooden racks. One bundle of gold-marked shafts had been removed 2 nights earlier. Vanessa's name appeared beside the entry. Emily copied the line onto a narrow strip of parchment rather than taking the ledger. As she folded it into her sleeve, a floorboard creaked behind her. Vanessa stood in the doorway wearing a cream wool gown beneath a pale traveling cloak. A silver rose fastened the cloak at her throat. Her smile was calm. Looking for something? Supplies for the healing hall. Vanessa glanced toward the empty rack. In the ceremonial storehouse? Emily said nothing. The scent of winter roses filled the small room. It was the same scent that clung to the cloth wrapped around Daniel when the guards found him. You knew he would use the eastern route, Emily said carefully. Vanessa's smile did not change. You should be cautious with stories built from injured memories. I did not mention anyone's memory. For 1 second, Vanessa's eyes sharpened. Then her expression softened again. Mason told me you have always struggled to understand what leadership requires. Did he tell you I saved Daniel Blackwood? Silence answered first. Vanessa moved to the ledger and closed it. Sometimes a pack must be frightened before it remembers who can protect it. The words were carefully chosen, vague enough to deny and clear enough to warn. Emily felt cold settle beneath her skin. Fear does not create loyalty. No, Vanessa said. But it creates obedience. Emily left without revealing what she had copied. She found Mason in the council chamber, standing over a map of the Northern Territories. Beneath the stone floor rested an ancient memory stone, a relic known only to senior elders and ruling alphas. It did not record every private word. It awakened only when discussions concerned the survival of the pack, and only 3 senior elders together could release what it held. Emily had seen Elder Margaret touch the sealed chamber beneath the floor years ago, but she had never known whether the stories about the stone were true. Mason closed the door when she entered. Where have you been? Trying to learn why someone from Silver Creek wanted Daniel Blackwood found on our border. His face remained controlled, but the bond carried a flicker of alarm. Emily placed the copied ledger entry on the map. A ceremonial bundle was taken under Vanessa's name. A signature can be copied. Daniel remembered a silver rose. The cloth around him carried Vanessa's perfume. The arrow was marked by our apothecary. Mason turned away. None of that proves she attacked him. Then help me investigate. There will be no investigation before the gathering. Emily stared at him. Why? Mason rested both hands on the edge of the table. Because Vanessa's father intended to provoke Blackridge. I knew he was creating pressure along the border. I did not know Daniel had been selected. The admission entered the room softly, yet it changed everything. You knew they were planning something. I knew they wanted Caleb unsettled before the negotiations. And you allowed it. I believed I could control the outcome. Emily's voice dropped. People could have suffered. Mason turned toward her. Every ruler makes choices that ordinary wolves are protected from understanding. Do not call this protection. His eyes hardened. One crisis could unite the smaller packs behind Silver Creek. Under one leader we could end years of rivalry. Under your rule, someone must lead. Emily looked at the man fate had tied to her, and saw how completely ambition had taught him to rename betrayal. What does Vanessa receive? Mason's silence tightened the bond between them. Then he spoke. The Hale Alliance. Council support. Aluna the other alphas will respect. The meaning struck with terrible clarity. You are going to reject me. Mason stepped closer. I had hoped to explain after the gathering. You plan to stand before the entire pack and call me unworthy. I plan to secure Silver Creek's future. Emily moved toward the door, but Mason caught her wrist. The bond flared, pressing obedience through her instincts. He believed she would yield because she always had. He believed love would make her protect him. An alpha authority would silence whatever love could not. You will remain quiet, he said. You will attend the ceremony. You will accept the rejection with dignity. Afterward, I will make certain you are cared for. Emily looked down at his hand, then into the blue eyes she had trusted for 2 years. Did you ever love me? Mason's grip loosened. I still do. Then why are you doing this? Because love is not enough to build a kingdom. The final illusion broke without sound. Emily pulled her wrist free. You never wanted a mate, she whispered. You wanted someone who would forgive everything. 3 nights later, beneath the blood moon, Mason's rejection echoed across the sacred square. The bond tore loose, leaving Emily breathless but standing. She placed his silver bracelet at his feet and accepted the end without accepting his judgment. Then Caleb Blackwood rose from the Blackridge delegation and entered the circle only after Emily told him to stay. Release her, Caleb said. The square returned around Emily in fragments, torchlight trembling against stone, winter roses in the cold air, hundreds of faces turned toward her, and Mason standing only a few feet away with the broken bond between them. Caleb stopped before her, leaving enough space for choice. Mason's expression darkened. This right belongs to Silver Creek. Not once you rejected her, Caleb replied. Under Blood Moon law, an unclaimed wolf may request sanctuary before the circle closes. Mason looked at Emily. You would leave your own pack for him? I have not chosen him, she said. I have chosen not to be silenced by you. Caleb removed his black cloak and held it out rather than placing it on her. Emily accepted it and drew it around her shoulders herself. The gesture quieted the whispers more effectively than any command. Vanessa stepped down from the ceremonial platform. She is no longer the alpha's concern. Remove her before she embarrasses herself further. A few wolves laughed nervously. Caleb turned toward them. The woman you call weak saved my brother, while your leaders were prepared to send him beyond the border. She calmed a poisoned wolf, preserved evidence that may prevent a war, and protected Silver Creek after its alpha ordered her silence. The laughter stopped. Mason's face lost color. You entered my territory in secret. I followed my family seal to Daniel. I came looking for my brother, not your throne. Caleb faced Emily again and extended an open hand. Emily Carter, Blackridge offers you the ancient right of sanctuary. No one may remove you from this circle or command your silence while that protection stands. But the choice must be yours. Emily looked at Mason, who had used fate as a chain, then at Caleb, who held out power without closing his hand around her. Slowly, she placed her fingers in his palm. Warmth moved through her, quiet and steady. Not ownership. Safety. Caleb turned toward the gathered wolves. Before the blood moon and every witness here, I invoke sanctuary for Emily Carter under Blackridge protection. Elder Margaret struck her carved staff against the stone. The claim is lawful. Until Emily releases it or formally chooses another pack, no alpha may compel her obedience. Mason's authority fell away from her completely. Emily reached beneath Caleb's cloak and removed the linen-wrapped arrow fragment, the copied ledger entry, and the gold-stained seal. She placed them on the ceremonial stone. Now the pack will hear why Daniel Blackwood was attacked, she said, looking directly at Vanessa. And before this night ends, the senior elders may need to awaken the memory stone beneath the council chamber. The linen opened beneath Emily's hands, revealing the dark arrow fragment, the copied ledger entry, and the gold-stained Blackridge seal. A hush moved across the sacred square. Elder Margaret Cole stepped into the circle, her carved staff striking the stone once. "These objects establish cause for inquiry," she said. "They do not establish guilt." Emily felt Caleb's steady presence beside her, close enough to offer safety without speaking for her. Margaret examined the gold marking, then passed the fragment to head healer Collins. His face tightened. "This shaft was treated in our Western apothecary." Vanessa lifted her chin. "Then someone stole it." "Perhaps," Margaret replied. "That is why the law requires testimony." Daniel Blackwood emerged from the Blackridge delegation wearing his commander's gray tunic. He was pale, but he walked without assistance. Caleb took one instinctive step toward him, then stopped when Daniel gave a small nod. "I remember a pale cloak," Daniel said. "A silver rose clasp. Someone told me the Eastern Trail had been cleared for private passage." His gaze settled on Vanessa. "I did not see the person's face." Vanessa seized upon the uncertainty. "Then you have nothing." Emily unfolded the copied inventory line. "A bundle of ceremonial shafts was removed under your name." "A name can be copied." "Yes," Emily said calmly. "Which is why I am not asking the pack to condemn you on clues alone." She turned toward the elders. "I am asking for the truth to be examined." Elder Margaret looked to the council seats. 2 senior elders rose and joined her in the circle. Together, the 3 of them placed their hands over the carved emblem at the center of the stone. "The memory stone may be awakened only when words spoken in the council chamber concern the survival of the pack," Margaret said for every witness to hear. "It cannot reveal private thoughts, and it cannot be opened by one elder alone. Tonight, 3 lawful keepers request its testimony." Pale light spread beneath their palms. Far below the council chamber, an ancient crystal answered, the square filled with a voice preserved by magic. Vanessa's father spoke first, describing unrest along the border and frightened packs seeking protection. Then Mason's voice followed. He had not ordered Daniel's attack. He had not known Daniel would be chosen, but he admitted that he knew a provocation was being prepared, and that he intended to use the resulting fear to strengthen his claim over the northern packs. The recording faded. No one moved. The truth did not arrive like thunder. It settled quietly, leaving nowhere for excuses to hide. Vanessa's father began to protest, but council guards stepped forward and escorted him from the ceremonial platform. Vanessa remained standing, her face drained of confidence. Elder Margaret turned to Mason. Blood Moon law permits the senior council to suspend an alpha immediately when recorded evidence shows that he knowingly endangered the pack. Final removal requires formal judgment at sunrise. One by one, the elders lifted their hands. Every vote favored suspension. Mason's ceremonial authority dissolved. The cloak on his shoulders became only fabric. He looked at Emily as though she were the final door still open to him. "Tell them I can repair this," he said. "Tell them I can still lead." Emily remembered the man who had once held her hands in the healing room and called secrecy protection. She remembered the command in his voice when he told her to destroy evidence. Her heart ached, but it no longer reached for him. "You may help repair what you allowed," she said softly, "but you cannot reclaim the woman you broke to build your throne." Mason lowered his gaze. Elder Margaret faced the gathering. "Until formal judgment, Silver Creek will be governed by its senior council. Emily Carter will give testimony as an independent witness under Blackridge Sanctuary." The wolves who had laughed at her now stood silent. Caleb offered his hand, but he did not pull her toward him. Emily took it because she chose to. After giving her testimony at sunrise, Emily accepted temporary sanctuary in Blackridge while the investigation continued. The decision was recorded before both councils. She did not abandon Silver Creek in secret, and she did not leave as Caleb's mate. She departed as a protected witness with the legal right to return whenever she wished. Blackridge lay beyond a high northern pass where snow remained even in late spring. The territory did not feel like a kingdom built for conquest. It felt like a place that had survived winter and learned how to make warmth precious. Caleb gave Emily the Eastern Lodge, a small stone home overlooking miles of pine. He handed her the key and told her no one would enter without permission. There were no guards outside her door. There were no expectations waiting at her table. Daniel remained nearby during his recovery, helping the Peace Council reconstruct the route and identify every person who had known his travel plans. His presence gave Emily a familiar reason to visit the healing hall, but she soon found many others. By the end of her first week, she had reopened the neglected clinic near the village square. She treated a carpenter's swollen hands, eased an elderly woman through moon fever, and taught 3 young healers how to calm a frightened wolf without forcing it into submission. At first, the villagers called her Caleb's Omega. Caleb corrected them every time. "Her name is Emily Carter," he said. Soon they began calling her the Moon Healer instead. Caleb visited the clinic most evenings, but he always waited at the doorway until Emily invited him inside. One night, while she sorted lavender into glass jars, she looked up and found him watching her with quiet patience. "You do not have to keep proving that you are different from Mason," she said. Caleb leaned against the stone frame. "I am not proving anything to him." "Then to whom?" "To you." The answer settled gently between them. Before Emily could respond, bells rang from the northern ridge. A late spring storm had loosened snow above the mountain road, trapping several families near an abandoned watch station. Emily reached for her leather healer's satchel. Caleb took up his cloak. "The pass is unstable," he said. "I would rather you remain here." The old shape of command tightened her shoulders. Caleb saw it immediately. "That was poorly said," he corrected. "I am afraid you could be hurt, but the choice is yours." Emily fastened her cloak. "I am going. Then I am going beside you." Snow fell thickly when they reached the ridge. Workers had already begun clearing the road. A young boy remained trapped beneath a partially collapsed wooden awning, frightened but unharmed. Emily crawled through the narrow opening and calmed him with her voice. As she guided him toward daylight, a weakened support beam shifted. Caleb caught it against one shoulder and pushed it far enough aside for Emily and the child to pass. He held it only for seconds, but the effort strained his shoulder. By sunset, every family had reached safety. Emily treated Caleb beside a small fire while snow melted in his dark hair. "You could have been hurt," she said. "So could you." "That is not an answer." Caleb watched her secure the bandage. "It is the truth. I would rather lose every chance of being chosen by you than watch you lose the right to choose your own path." Emily's hands became still. The broken place inside her did not vanish, but it no longer felt empty. It felt like a quiet room where something honest might grow. She rested her hand lightly over his bandaged shoulder. "Then stay beside me," she said. "Not in front of me." A small smile warmed his face. "Always." 3 months later, the Great Hall of Blackridge stood open to both packs. Silver Creek banners hung beside the black and silver crest of Caleb's people, their edges stirring in the warm breeze from the high windows. Mason's formal hearing had ended weeks earlier. The council removed him from Alpha Authority, not because he had ordered the attack, but because he had knowingly concealed a threat to his own people. He remained in Silver Creek under council supervision, repairing neglected homes, rebuilding border shelters, and answering to wolves he had once expected to obey him without question. Vanessa and her father faced judgment for their part in the provocation, while the remaining council members helped establish new safeguards between the packs. At the center of the Blackridge Hall, Emily stood beneath a circle of pale moonlight in robes of deep blue and silver. She had not come as Caleb's possession. She had come as the Moon Healer, chosen by both councils to witness the new peace agreement. Elder Margaret placed the final parchment before her. Emily signed first. Caleb signed beside her. Daniel, fully recovered, added the mark of Blackridge's commanders. When the last seal touched the page, applause filled the stone arches. Emily looked toward the Silver Creek delegation. Mason sat among them without an Alpha's cloak. Their eyes met. Regret lived in his face, but he did not approach her. At last he understood that remorse did not create a right to return. Caleb stepped into the moonlit circle. Instead of standing above Emily, he lowered himself to one knee. Surprise moved through both packs. An Alpha did not kneel before an Omega. Caleb did. "Before these wolves I once invoked the right to protect you," he said. "But sanctuary is not ownership, and loyalty is not love unless it is freely given." Emily felt the hall holding its breath. The place beneath her ribs where Mason's bond had once burned no longer ached. In its place lived smaller memories. Caleb waiting at the clinic door, listening when she disagreed, correcting himself when fear sounded too much like command, and walking beside her through the snow. Caleb opened his hand but did not reach for hers. Emily Carter, will you choose me as your mate, not because fate demands it, and not because I stood against the man who rejected you, but because we have built something worthy of choosing? Tears warmed her eyes, but her voice remained steady. The moon goddess may open a door, she said. She cannot make us walk through it. Emily stepped closer and placed her hand in his. I choose you, Caleb Blackwood. Soft silver light appeared where their palms met. It traveled over their wrists like moonlight crossing still water, gentle and bright. Their wolves recognized each other without force, pain, or command. Caleb rose slowly, giving her every moment to change her mind. Emily did not. She touched her forehead to his, and the bond settled between them, warm as a homecoming. Around them, Silver Creek and Blackridge bowed together, not because an alpha ordered it, but because the woman they had once overlooked had helped stop a war before it began. Caleb had claimed the right to protect her before the entire pack. Yet Emily's greatest victory was not being chosen by a stronger alpha. It was learning that her heart had always belonged to her, and love became destiny only when she chose to give it.